July 1st, 1867. This is Dominion Day, the first day of Confederation. There has been a review today of the military and volunteers. Most of the people have celebrated the day by going on excursions, as it is a public holiday. Sophia went to the Merediths to play a match at croquet. Bella returned with her to play euchre. George returned from Windsor late in the evening with a very severely burned hand, which he received while letting off rockets. Amelia Harris.
1867, Canada becomes a nation. The Harrises watch it all happen, but there is no one in the family who actually took part in what happened. Amelia, the matriarch of the family, in her diary still expresses the fact that Eldon House and the Harris family are very prominent citizens of London, but they really no longer take any active part in the affairs of the city.
Amelia Harris would outlive both the husband and the British garrison that had once made her house the social hub of London. John Harris had died in 1850. The 53rd Regiment would leave the city in 1869. At the time of Amelia's death, 14 years later, Eldon House and its glory years would be forgotten by most Londoners. The regiment's old parade grounds were landscaped into Victoria Park. The green space also housed a makeshift ball diamond for the London Tecumsehs, until complaints about the fences prompted the construction of Tecumseh Park at the forks of the river in 1877. The new Diamond's first season was its best when the Tecumsehs beat the Pittsburgh Alleghenies for the International Association pennant, the forerunner of the World Series. It was to be the first Major League championship to be won by a Canadian team on Canadian soil, and the last until the Toronto Blue Jays reclaimed the title in 1993. London was evolving into a major city in other ways. St. Peter's Basilica, London's most magnificent Catholic church, was completed in 1885. Bishop John Walsh had promoted its expensive construction to prevent French influences from moving the seat of the diocese to Windsor. Thomas Talbot's old courthouse was remodeled just in time for the notorious trial of a group of Lucan area vigilantes accused of murdering members of the Donnelly family. To the east of the city was an industrial heart of railway shops and petrochemical manufacturers. Fumes from kerosene refineries were said to be so strong that they stripped the paint off nearby houses. The London Asylum on Oxford Street established new standards of care for the mentally challenged under the guidance of Dr. Richard Buck. To the west of the river was the village of Petersville, where low property taxes attracted the city's working class. Most of the community was built on floodplain, a drawback that struck home in July of 1883 when the Thames washed out the area, drowning 17 people. Earlier that year, Paul Peel returned home. The 22-year-old artist had fared well in Paris, earning a spot in that year's Spring Salon. However, he still had one great artistic vision to share with his fellow Londoners.
And it is a brilliant demonstration of how adept he was and how much he had learned, because he painted light in that particular work exquisitely. And the composition is really quite extraordinary. So we have a very beautiful painting of a hot, dry July day, with clouds perhaps promising rain, and there was our first major marketplace.
The Covent Garden Market would be Peel's most famous painting of London, and the last. He returned to Europe later that year, where his work soon attracted a large following. At the time of his death, at the age of 32, Peel would be the most celebrated Londoner in the world, and one of the finest Canadian artists of the 19th century. His fame would even outlive the old market building. Future growth for all of London was assured when a new water supply was secured at the freshwater springs near Byron. The construction of the new pump house and reservoir led to the creation of Springbank Park, London's most popular picnic ground of its time. 2 riverboat companies were set up to ferry in Londoners from the downtown area. Many of the vessels suffered from makeshift construction and lax safety standards. Of the 6 boats that operated on the Thames, the worst was the Victoria. On May 24, 1881, Queen Victoria celebrated her 62nd birthday. The event offered Londoners a rare holiday from their 6-day work weeks. Many had decided to take the 15-cent boat ride to Springbank Park, and the ferry operators were eager for the extra business. By the time the Victoria arrived for the afternoon's last return trip, the dock was packed.
The people were in a panic and a hurry to get home. The domestics wanted to get home and get the meals cooking. Kids were cranky. And as sometimes happens, people get foolish in large crowds and they don't think. And people crowded on the ship very, very viciously almost. And it was overloaded in a matter of minutes. The people just streamed past the 2 pursers trying to take the tickets.
The Victoria was designed to carry 400 passengers. By the time it pulled out from the Springbank Pavilion at 5 o'clock, it carried 650.
About 5:30, we were coming very slow by Griffith's Dam. As I looked down the staircase, I noticed the water ankle deep down below. The crowd seemed excited and kept rushing from one side to the other. Captain Rankin told them repeatedly to stand still and not crowd so much. James Drennan.
In a frantic attempt to save the boat, Rankin decided to beach the Victoria on a nearby sandbar. He had barely given the order when 2 members of the London Rowing Club, unaware of the Victoria's peril, decided to race it down the Thames. It was the final ingredient for disaster.
People rushed all over to the right-hand side of the ship to take a look, but the crowd was just too big. The balance was far too off, and the ship heeled over tremendously. People realized what was going to happen very quickly, and a lot of them tried to back away from the railing and push to the other side of the ship to counterbalance it. But far too many, and balanced way too far, and the ship heeled over to the other side, and at that point, the boiler rolled off its mount.
As it toppled overboard, the boiler took out the main supports for the top deck, which collapsed on the passengers below. In a matter of seconds, the structure of the Victoria had disintegrated in 17 feet of water.
I was standing on the north side of the upper deck when the crash came. I was hurled into the water with 500 others. I sank to the bottom, but managed to climb up on the people, but in turn was climbed up on by others. I then exerted myself for a final struggle and got on top again and reached the shore. The screams which arose from the drowning mass were terrific. William Soper.
As we write, at 3 o'clock in the morning, some 200 bodies have been removed, and it is believed a great many more are yet in the water. The catastrophe is one that can scarcely be appreciated in all its magnitude. But if the roofs of all the houses in London could be raised today, the scenes of woe would make the strongest man weep. The London Free Press.
May 26th. The shops have been closed and the city is to wear a badge of mourning for a month. Coffins could not be got in London sufficiently for the dead, and they have been telegraphed for to Toronto, Hamilton, and other places. Funeral processions have not been out of sight from early morning until dark. It is a dreadful calamity. Amelia Harris.
The total death count was 230. It was London's worst tragedy, and no one ever served a single day in jail for it.
The captain blamed the people, the owner of the ship blamed the people, the pursers blamed just about everybody else, the people blamed the owners of the ship and the company line. Everybody blamed everybody else without realizing they all caused it.